I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Duluth City councilors continue to wrangle with the issue of short-term rentals of local homes. The president of Visit Duluth is here with her perspective.
Duluth is in the top 10 of cities competing for the $5 million Georgetown Energy Prize. We have the latest on the competition and what residents can do to help win the prize.
And we'll have the week's business headlines and a news file story from 25 years ago.
It's all coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. Our show was recorded on Wednesday this week, so our crew can prepare for Saturday's broadcast of the symphony, and we'll have more on that at the end of the show.
Right.
But right now, here's Denny to introduce our first guest.
All right, thank you very much, Julie, and welcome everyone. If you aren't in the travel industry, you might not know that this is National Travel and Tourism Week. Visit Duluth, the city's official visitors bureau, held its annual membership meeting this week. As the city's marketing agency, Visit Duluth has a rather unique perspective on the short-term home rental issue the City Council is currently debating. Joining us now is Anna Tanski, the president and CEO of Visit Duluth. And Anna, thank you for being here. Anna, you've studied the home rental issue for some time. It's really a growing industry here in town.
It really is. We've had vacation rentals in this market for a number of years, but the emergence of the home sharing or the Airbnb is really what's sort of brought about this conversation at the city level and the necessary conversation on regulating that.
So the city is trying to get some control over what is happening with this industry. It's really happening across the country.
It really is. This is not unique to Duluth, but you know, every community is different. And with the amount of visitors we have coming to Duluth, there is an expectation that this sort of lodging would be available. Of course, that brings some of the issues from the city's perspective on how they can manage this.
Mm-hmm. So explain what the different types of vacation rental properties are that we're talking about.
And that they are very distinct. There is home sharing, which is when the owner of a property is at the residence during the time that the guest is staying with them. So maybe they rent out one room or a bedroom and a bathroom or a portion of their home while they are still occupying the home, much like a traditional bed and breakfast. The other is a vacation dwelling unit, which is defined as a home that someone owns, but they rent the entire home out. So a vacation rental by owner, or VRBO, is what we typically will refer to those as.
Certainly society, Anna, is changing, and millennials are really changing the way society lives. And part of that is probably some changing in business patterns. Are you finding now, as we go into the future, that this is going to be something that Duluth is going to have to live with for the rest of
forever.
X number of years, or forever?
I think we will live with it, and we will probably embrace it at some point. You know, getting through the logistics is a challenge, and we don't want to minimize that process at the city level. However, I think we are very close to finding that common ground that creates the opportunity for commerce and a shared economy, as it's referred to. But it also, it does then serve that younger visitor who is coming online now and is the largest population traveling.
So what are traditional B&Bs saying about this?
You know, we have a number of properties in the city, and they've been quite vocal, but also they're not afraid of competition. It's just about having a level playing field. And the city has really heard that message loud and clear, because they do pay taxes. They are required to maintain a certain level of permitting and licensing and insurance. And that protects them as a business owner, but it also protects the visitor. And that's what can't get lost in this conversation, is really making sure that we are taking care of the visitor once they get to our city, and that they're not encountering something that could be a less than ideal accommodation for them once they get here.
I did a spot check today on both VRBO and Airbnb, and both of them had 61 rentals offered in Duluth or the Duluth area. How are those properties at this point being managed to ensure that they're clean and safe and healthy alternatives for people?
The traditional vacation rentals, the entire home that is being rented out, those have been licensed for a number of years in Duluth and do have a permitting process and inspection process. So the city planning department does really regulate those. On the Airbnb site, if they are a home share, they are currently not being inspected, but that process in permitting is now changing and evolving with the passage of the first phase of the ordinance. And then the city will have some teeth really to the enforcement side of things, because that's really where some of the neighborhood issues have emerged, is perhaps a less than responsible operator who is not abiding by what we would consider proper operating procedures, respecting the neighbors, maybe impinging on some of the neighborhood.
Does the city want to ban Airbnb from operating as they're doing with Duluth houses?
They do not. The city has really recognized that this is a key part of our travel industry. And what they want is to try to create that balance within a neighborhood, because these are commercial enterprises now within a residential setting. So it's a little tricky, but the city is very willing to work within the Airbnb parameters. And in turn, Airbnb on a national level is saying it will enforce any city's ordinance for collecting the taxes and for making sure that these operators are posting their license number on their listings in order to be in compliance. So it will mean unlicensed properties cannot be listed on Airbnb. So,
do you think it's a good idea for the city to restrict the number of permits that it allows for Airbnbs? I imagine from your perspective, you want to have as many lodging options as you can for people who want to come to the city.
well, it's again a balancing act, because we do have a significant inventory of lodging options in Duluth. We have a number of new hotel properties coming online this year, actually in the next 18 months, which will be the largest influx of hotel room inventory we've seen since the mid-1990s. So creating supply doesn't always create demand, and so add into that equation perhaps several hundred of these other types of lodging options, and we really start to see a major influx. So it is about having options, but I don't think a cap is necessarily going to make that great of a difference. And I've shared that with several councilors, because when it comes to home sharing, those typically are responsible owners who are sharing their home and maybe not having some of the issues we've seen with the unsupervised entire home being rented out. And even with that said, the majority of the homeowners are very responsible because they're protecting their significant investment they've made in these properties. So the enforcement side will help keep those properties in line, and I don't think we're going to see a huge a rampage to go and get your permit, because it does take quite a significant investment, and to rely on rental to pay that mortgage is a bit of a risk. So I think we'll be okay. We'll see it settle down, once we get this process rolling again.
Lots of tourists here. Can you give us some idea as to what kind of tourist dollars are spent in Duluth in a given year?
Well, we know for a fact that it is about an $800 million economic impact to our industry, and that's because we welcome 3.5 million visitors every year. Years like this, when we have some signature events that never usually line up all in one summer, we might see even greater numbers this year. And it's 16,000 jobs that are a part of our economy, and it's the third largest industry in Duluth. So that's why we keep hearing about this issue of home sharing, because it has a far greater reach.
And it won't go away, will it?
And it will not go away. It's here to stay.
Any cautions for consumers who are renting through one of these sites that you could
Absolutely.
recommend?
What we're seeing on several fronts. If you are booking a hotel room, you should book direct with the property or a known booking site. What we're seeing are some fraudulent booking and reservation sites that look very much like the real thing. And they're saying the Lodging Association is saying up to 15 million rooms a year worldwide are being booked under false pretenses. So try to know who you're booking with. When it comes to these types of rentals, make sure the owner is licensed, that you do see that license number, whether it's a home share or a vacation rental. And then you're pretty much assured that you're dealing with a reputable operator who is going to make sure you have a great stay when you come here.
What conclusion do you think the Duluth City Council will come up with? They haven't come up with a solution yet for the home rentals. What do you think they will come up with?
I think they really will come to a consensus where they can make this workable for the city, because enforcing it, you can have some very strict restrictions, but if you don't have the city capable, or have the resources available to enforce, that can be a challenge. And I think what they will come to a middle ground and realize, this ordinance may not be perfect, but they're going to reevaluate it as it continues to evolve and as this industry continues to grow in our market. And I think they're going to realize that they can accommodate the residents and their constituents by making sure they provide the resources to the city to enforce the rules that they have put in place.
Now, you mentioned before that this summer has some signature events. Talk about the exciting things that are happening in Duluth this summer.
It's really amazing to see the lineup we have. It will kick off, of course, with Grandma's Marathon, 40th anniversary, just an incredible event that is shaping up to be, and just a global presence that it really focuses.
I'm hearing like 22,000 runners.
Absolutely, and that's just the runners. They bring all of their cheering section and their families, so the city will be just absolutely on fire that weekend. It's going to be great. Then we go into the air show, and we are followed by the anniversary celebration for the deck, celebrating their 50th and the week-long celebration they have planned. And then we go into, of course, the signature event of Tall Ships. So,
which this year will have a 61-foot rubber duck.
The world's largest, and we are very excited to welcome it here in our city.
You may not remember Lauren Green, the actor.
I do
Well,
remember.
I interviewed Lauren Green when the deck opened, so that's a while back.
Oh, well, it really is amazing to see where we've come in 50 years and imagining our community without things like the deck in it. So it's great to look back, but it's exciting to look forward.
What about the impact of gas prices? They're pretty low this year. Do you think that's going to make a difference in terms of the numbers of people coming to our region?
I think it will be a positive for us, because every indication is the trends that we're seeing statewide and within the Midwest. The prices should remain relatively low, and that helps us a lot because we are primarily a drive market. So what we will see hopefully is visitors coming from a little further away, and they still drove, but they maybe decided to take that extra couple-hour drive and make it up to Duluth. So,
Well, Anna, this was a great discussion. Thank you very kindly for coming in. Anna
Thank
Tanski,
you.
Visit Duluth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
You can forget about our recent cold snap, even the rain and snow. The Northland is in the midst of high fire danger.
It spreads into brush areas, and it can spread into heavier timber, particularly if there's some dead balsam areas, and then buildings and homes. And this is the real danger of losing some personal property and people getting hurt or worse.
Dry grasses, wind, and low humidity are adding up to some nasty brush fires in our region and across the state. Joe Gummerson says more than 1,600 fires have scorched about 50,000 acres in Minnesota just this year.
If we get a little bit more moisture in the soil, that will speed up the greening process. But right now, it's kind of on a day-to-day basis, just depends on what the weather does each day.
Meanwhile, local firefighters are holding their breath. The promise of a moist summer could come true.
Well, up into July, we're talking about near normal precipitation, which would imply a couple, 3 inches a month, which means that probably right after it rains, it'll be low fire danger, and then after you get a couple, 3 nice days like we've had, the fire danger is going to go right back up.
So what starts out as an innocent pile of burning debris quickly becomes a fast-moving grass fire. And officials say this brown vegetation is its fuel. And until brown becomes green, this threat won't go away. Ryan Davenport, KDLH News.
Since January of 2015, Duluth has been one of 50 cities in the United States competing for the Georgetown University Energy Prize. With about 7 months to go in the competition, Duluth is in 7th place and reaching for first. The nonprofit group Equilibrium 3 is leading the charge, partnering with the city, Comfort Systems, and Minnesota Power to reach the top prize. And here to tell us how local citizens can help is Shannon Szymkowiak, the Director of Partnership Development for Equilibrium 3. Tina Koecher is Manager of Customer Solutions at Minnesota Power. And Eric Schlacks is Utility Program Coordinator at Comfort Systems. And thanks to all of you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Shannon, 7th place sounds like a pretty amazing spot to be at this point in the competition. How did we get there?
Well, well, Duluthians are by nature pretty competitive. We like a good competition, and so that's good. And we have a lot of folks who are interested in keeping their energy costs down, both for themselves personally and also for the greater environment. So all of that helps.
So what is this energy prize? Can you describe the purpose of the contest?
It's Georgetown University is offering a $5 million prize to the city that is the mid-sized city that is able to reduce their electric and natural gas use the most. And they're comparing years 15, 16 to 13, 14 in both electricity and natural gas. So, and this would be municipal and residential buildings only. Businesses are not included in this.
So a city reducing the amount of electricity and natural gas it uses doesn't sound like something that two utilities would really embrace. Why did Minnesota Power get involved?
Well, actually, Minnesota Power has had some leading edge conservation programs for years, exceeding the state goal, and this gave us an opportunity to really evolve those programs and collaborate in a whole new way. And so we're very excited about that. Plus, when customers are using our product most effectively, they're being more resilient, more competitive, and sustainable.
Eric?
Well, we want to help our customers use natural gas as efficiently as possible so that they thrive and our city thrives.
So what are some of the things that have actually been done so far? Some of the creative solutions that have really propelled Duluth into that 7th position? And whichever one of you wants to answer would be fine.
Well, we kicked things off most, probably one of the biggest kickoffs was the Morgan Park challenge, and Tina could probably talk a little bit about that.
Yep, we did the Morgan Park Challenge where we actually did a neighborhood canvassing and visited homes and gave tips and ideas for saving energy, from simple tips like replacing light bulbs or turning things off or even turning the temperature down, to bigger investments like in heating and cooling systems and appliances.
Eric?
We went from house to house. We actually did a neighborhood canvass, and we got volunteers from the city of Duluth and Morgan Park to basically meet their neighbors and talk about what they could do. One of the things we encourage them to do is to sign up for free home energy audits or advanced home energy checkups so that we could have an energy expert come into the home and make recommendations.
Now that Morgan Park area, of course, is one of the more historic areas in town. Is that a real opportunity for Duluth because we have a lot of older homes that maybe weren't built when energy efficiency was a thing?
Yep, you're hitting it right on the head there. Duluth does have very old housing stock overall, and so making those changes, it can be kind of daunting for some people, but when you start talking about those small things that can be done that make big differences, that's where people really start to listen and say, wow, I guess I don't have to do the huge things, although that's always great, but those small things can help people get out of that fuel poverty if they find themselves in a heat or eat situation.
So Eric, does Comfort Systems offer energy audits? And if so, how does somebody plug into that?
We do offer energy audits. In fact, we partner with Minnesota Power so that when an audit is done, a customer can have both the electrical side and the natural gas side done all at one time. And they can simply call 525-3078 and get a free home energy checkup set up, or they can call Equilibrium 3 at
336-1038, and
Okay.
we do an advanced home energy audit where we set up the blower door and go through with the infrared camera so that you can see where some of those cold spots are, and where you can start doing those sealing projects in the house.
Everybody likes to save money. Are you finding more and more people taking advantage of this?
Yeah, and people asking, about what they can do, because there are a lot of low and no cost things that people can do as well. Simple things like just changing your most used light bulb from a CFL or an incandescent to an LED light bulb is going to save you money. And when we start talking about the aggregate of the entire city, if we can get everybody in Duluth to do that, that's going to move that needle.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that just by taking simple actions, people can really help Duluth make a difference and reduce their energy use. Comfort Systems is promoting people checking the water temperature of their hot water, and if it's over 120 degrees, go to their water heater and reduce the temperature. For many customers, they can save from 5 to 10% of their hot water heater cost, and if they come to Comfort Systems office at 520 Garfield Avenue, we'll give them a temperature gauge card for free to do that.
And I asked you about it. It's kind of the same technology as the old mood rings. So it changes color depending on what color.
That's right.
And one thing I would say that was really exciting about the Morgan Park Challenge was that the energy saving activities that residents took actually led to a $3,000 contribution toward their community center. So an innovative way for that to add up.
Turned out that Morgan Park then became a pretty good model for what's happening, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're looking at actually expanding that to Lincoln Park. We kicked off a small business type of blitz where we were going from business to business to identify saving opportunities as well.
So whole neighborhoods can take advantage of this.
Right, and that's one of the things about the competition. It's not simply how much energy you reduce, but it's also the scope of alliances within the community, and also the programs that are come up, how innovative they are, and whether they can be duplicated in other areas.
There was one, I understand, with congregations trying to engage churches and getting their members involved, and schools and getting their families involved. Talk about how successful that's been.
Well, the church program was a gentleman in our office, and by the name of Brett, was kind of spearheading that business and getting congregations to look at the church building envelope, which can sometimes be a bit breezy and costly to congregations. So by making the churches aware, then they were also able to make individuals within the churches aware to look at their own homes. And one of the nice things about that program was some of the churches that have congregations that maybe are struggling financially were supported by congregations that didn't have that issue to that degree, and people were doing energy audits to help support people in other neighborhoods to do them as well.
Should Duluth win the $5 million energy prize, how would that money be spent?
We don't know yet.
Oh.
One of the parameters of the competition is that it does have to be used for an energy project. So a trust has been set up for that, should we win the prize. But that conversation's still happening. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
Tina, I understand you brought some graphics along that you're trying to
Sure.
Engage young people in this effort.
Yep, we rolled out actually at the home show recently a coloring contest featuring being an energy saving hero. So it has some simple tips that folks can do at home, and hopefully a lot of times by engaging kids, they'll help to engage their parents to take those actions. And then we actually have these different villains that you would be fighting, and so anything from the abominable dust monster, meaning dust those refrigerator coils, change those filters, to Count Von Bulb, meaning change out your lights or shut off lights in rooms when you're not using them. So it's a fun, engaging way to exemplify those simple tips.
Let me tell you, Tina, grandpas wouldn't mind doing the coloring too.
We just have a couple of seconds left, but do people have to let anybody know if they're participating, or do you just measure the energy use? And
We're measuring the total energy use of the community. Both Minnesota Power and Comfort Systems are totaling up the usage each quarter, and we're sending it to Georgetown for them to analyze.
all right, well, thanks so much for coming in and
Great
sharing
discussion.
information, and good
Thanks
luck
for
as you
having
move
us.
forward.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
It's time now for the week's business headlines from Business North. Essentia Health opened its new 20,000 square foot clinic Monday on Ashland's Medical Campus, which also is the site of Memorial Medical Center. Also Monday, the new Northwest Wisconsin Cancer Center opened its doors to patients. The $12 million facility is located on the same site and is a collaboration between Memorial Medical Center and Essentia Health. The clinic features the latest generation of imaging technology, including full body scanning. The Cancer Center offers the ability to receive many of the same services provided at larger regional cancer centers.
A study conducted for the state of Wisconsin determined that tourism made a $19 billion financial impact during 2015, an increase of 4.4% from the previous year. Travelers to Douglas County spent nearly $89 million last year, supporting more than 1,200 jobs. Statewide, tourism supports about 191,000 jobs.
It'll be another busy year for regional contractors, according to project plans on file with the Duluth Builders Exchange. On the housing front, 3 apartment buildings will be constructed in Duluth and 1 in Superior. More than $180 million have been allocated for regional school projects that begin this year or next. And new highway projects are valued at more than $97 million, and carryover projects at $195 million in northern Minnesota alone. Several additional projects could join the list if the Minnesota legislature includes them in the bonding bill. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have something to say about this week's show, give us a call. Dial 218-788-2849 and leave a message, or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. You can also visit the WDSE website for updates on your favorite programs and get the latest news about the station and upcoming events. And don't forget, tune in live Saturday night for WDSE's broadcast of the Duluth Superior Symphony. It's going to be a fantastic show.
Yes,
Danny.
indeed. Always fun to watch. If you can't be there, watch it on television.
You
Lots of
actually get great seats on public television.
fun. You do.
For Denny and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Enjoy your weekend, everyone.